Postseason time has arrived, and so has the latest edition of This Week in CAA Football, powered by GEICO. He's Tim McDonald. I'm Bobby Broyles. The regular season has come to a close, and when all the dust settled, New Hampshire became CAA football's first champion to go unbeaten in league play since 2008. Then one of your favorite days of the year, Selection Sunday, CAA football was awarded 4 playoff bids to the 2014 NCAA championship.
Christmas has come early. You have to give congrats to UNH. You know, the first team, like you said, in this league since JMU in 2008 to go undefeated. It's not an easy thing to do. Yes, I know they didn't play JMU or Villanova, but still, it's really hard. And we saw it. They got all they could handle from Maine. A really ugly win, 6 turnovers in that game, but still limited Maine to 179 yards of offense. First team in New Hampshire history to win 10 straight games. Since that FBS loss to Toledo, they haven't looked back. Again, you have to move on to Villanova, too. The other team in CAA football getting a seed. They get the number 6 seed. Very deserving, and John Robertson gets it done again.
Yeah.
I know, it's the same thing every week, but he gets it done again. Kevin Gulias, who also caught the game winner versus William & Mary. You also remember that game-winning drive earlier in the season. He catches a 20-yarder from John Robertson late in that game, and they were up 20-0 at that point, at one point in that game, and they come back. Congrats to Villanova, again, a tough loss. And then Richmond. You have to give credit to Richmond, and you have to give credit to JMU as well. Both of the Virginia teams get it done. JMU, kind of expected versus Elon, got it done offensively, just a huge start, and just rolled, absolutely rolled. Bad lead, 92% passing, just insane numbers, just kept on rolling. JMU's going to get a home game. And Richmond, kudos to the Spiders. You know, this program, it's the team that we've talked about, has always been one win away the last couple of years from the playoffs, and they get it done on the road at William & Mary. A tough place to play. Strauss and Seth Fisher had a great 40-yard run. It was career high in the third quarter, and in the second half, Richmond proved that they wanted that playoff spot, and they did it on the field, and they got it done, so kudos to Richmond. All 4 teams, Bob, sitting pretty right now. It's playoff time.
Exactly, and let's also not forget some of the other headlines from last Saturday as Rhode Island picked up its first win of the season. A tough year for the Rams, ended on a solid note. Congrats to Jim Fleming on getting his first win at the helm at Rhodey. Also, UAlbany, after just 1 win last season in their first year in the league, finished with a winning record at 7-5 under first-year head coach Greg Cattuso in 2014. What a turnaround, and shout out to the Great Danes as well.
It is a great way for both of those programs to end the season. You know, what's crazy about that Rhode Island win, Dylan Smith, the kicker, is CAA Special Teams Player of the Week. That was the only 2 field goals that Rhodey had all season long. Had they not had a field goal in that game, they would have been the first team in the FCS level since 2009 to not have a field goal the whole season. In UAlbany, give credit to them. Omar Osborne had a career-high 68-yard rushing touchdown, basically to seal that win in the fourth quarter. He goes out on top. Will Fiacchi, the quarterback, ends his career as the Great Danes' all-time passing leader. A great way for them. You know, it's funny, UAlbany technically, in some sense, was 1 CAA football win away from being in that playoff discussion. Kudos to Rhodey and UAlbany finishing strong.
Well, now it's time to get to the playoff matchup starting Saturday at 1 p.m. on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app. Richmond will play host to the MEAC champion Morgan State.
And Morgan State's a team who played Villanova this season. They lost 48-28. That was a really close game. People forget that. It was 28 all at halftime, and then in the third quarter, Nova just did what it does. They just took over that game. Morgan State's really interesting. This is a team, the MEAC never had a 5-way tie for their automatic bid to determine that, and it happened this year for the first time. So they needed, besides winning, they won huge at Delaware State. Morgan State did this past weekend. They needed 4 other teams, you know, things to work out magically, and it did. So congrats to Morgan State, but again, a tough test. They're going to head to Richmond. This is a Richmond team right now where it seems like we kind of forget about them a little bit. You know, the 2 losses in this month, and it was a tough stretch. Strauss looked hobbled against JMU, but all of a sudden they come back. Last week versus William & Mary, get it done. Seth Fisher, like I said, had a huge game. He's now rushed for 10 touchdowns this year. He's been absolutely big. And let's forget, you know, let's talk about Richmond's receiving core. We've talked about the loss of Stephen Barnett and what it's meant for this team, and it certainly has had an impact. But Reggie Diggs, Brown, and Rashad Ponder are just guys who've stepped up. For instance, Ponder on that list of wide receivers, of those 3 receivers, his 56 receptions are the fewest amongst those 3 receivers. So it just goes to show how dangerous and how comfortable they've gotten over the last couple of weeks. A huge chance for this program to make a move. Morgan State, like I said, they have a good run game and they have a good pass defense, only allow 141 yards passing per game, so I think that's going to be a test. Richmond at home, though, you'd have to think that they have the slight advantage. And again, not to look ahead, but if Richmond can get the job done, they'll head to Coastal Carolina the next week.
Absolutely, and you know, you look at this Richmond team, in November they were turning the football over at an alarming rate. Against William & Mary, 0 turnovers, so look for that to be key.
You know, another thing I should mention quickly here, Richmond is 7-0 when they lead at the break and 7-0 when they score 30 points. So that's all you have to do. Just take care of that and you'll win.
Exactly. Following that contest, James Madison takes its 7-game winning streak into the playoffs as they host Big South champion Liberty at 4 o'clock on ESPN3 and also on the Watch ESPN
And the
app.
Dukes get a little bit of love from the FCS selection committee.
Yes,
Obviously talking about teams that, could make a run here and are some of the hottest teams, and we've used that word, hot. And that's what this JMU team has been. Vadley last week, like we said, 92%, set a single-game record. He was 23 of 25, I should say, Bob. And this JMU team right now is absolutely on a roll. This is a really interesting matchup. Liberty is a team out of the Big South that needed a win to punch its ticket to the playoff. They did it at Coastal Carolina, a place that's not easy to win. Kudos to Liberty. This will be their first playoff appearance. Liberty's a team right now, they have a 1,000-yard receiver, they have a 1,000-yard rusher. Offensively, I think they're going to be able to move the ball and score some points, but the question is, can you limit James Madison? The Dukes average 217 rush yards per game, and we always talk about Vadley and the receivers and the weapons, and that's honest, that's true, but we forget about Abdullah and Latney, two guys who both have over 500 yards rushing this year. I think the run game for JMU sets it up well against this Liberty team. Liberty, though, you look, oh, they're a Big South team, they needed to win to get, they've been battle tested too. Don't forget about this. They started the year at UNC in an FBS game. They also played Indiana State and they also played Richmond. Both of those teams are also in the playoffs, so they're battle tested. First time since 2011 JMU's in the playoffs. First time we get to see the beautiful Bridgeport Stadium in the playoffs. Great chance for JMU to show FCS and show the nation what JMU Nation is all about. I expect to see a lot of streamers. I know it's Thanksgiving, okay, Duke fans, and I know it's a holiday, but I still think it's going to be a great atmosphere by both fan bases. But JMU, you have to imagine the fans are just going to be riled up to see this one.
Absolutely. Liberty, as you say, battle tested. They've also knocked off Appalachian State this year.
Good point.
And then
technically an FBS team, but I won't get into that.
Exactly. But and then you got to look at that JMU defense as well over the past few weeks. Sage Harold's really stepped up on that side of the ball. They've always been a big question mark all year, but they played their best football here down the stretch as well.
You know me. I'm a stats geek, okay?
Oh, yeah.
How about this? Sage Harold and Brandon Lee, 31 tackles for loss combined and 18 sacks on the season. It says it all right there.
There you go. CAFootball.com will have all the latest information you need from the postseason, including links to watch this Saturday's matchups. And don't forget, national seeds New Hampshire and Villanova will be in action next weekend in the second round.
It's the playoffs, people. That means all the things on social media will begin a little bit more nuts this week.
Oh, yeah.
You can find us on all the platforms, including Twitter and Instagram, by using the CAA Football hashtag and searching CAA Football.
CAA Football's annual awards were announced on Tuesday. For a complete list of all of this year's honorees, log on to CAAFootball.com.
And with the postseason edition of This Week in CAA Football comes, of course, a special playoff edition of the Yak. CAA Football's podcast returns this Friday. Mark it down, Friday, not Thursday, with more in-depth analysts heading into the playoffs. And we'll also have special guests from both Richmond and James Madison to break down their respective first-round matchups. And who knows, we might even have a little bit of debate about some of our favorite Thanksgiving food. So we'll see. I don't know. Check that out on CAA Football's blog, cafootball.wordpress.com.
Are we allowed to eat during the show?
We'll talk about that. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, Tim, the regular season didn't disappoint. Looking forward to seeing the league well represented once again in this year's national championship race.
And 4 teams in CAA football, Bob. Look at the quality of these teams in the playoffs, and we know potential matchups loom down the road, but still, what a year! And it's hard to think at the beginning of the year that we get 4 teams in. It's a great thing for this league. Again, it's exciting time right now. Everything's on the line. There's no week if you lose after this, obviously.
Absolutely. That is it from us today. From all of us at CAA Football, we wish all of you a safe and happy Thanksgiving. We will see you right back here next Wednesday.